He can't clap no more.
I can't clap.
Oh, you've been going to the gym, man.
Yeah, getting ripped.
No.
Check out those muscles.
I guess they didn't see the clap, so they have no idea what I'm talking about. So I am just a liar. A big old fat liar.
But hey.
Let me see myself.
Yeah,
Hey,
turn that camera around.
How you doing?
What's up, guys?
Nice. Jeez.
How about those insert Super Bowl winners here?
I don't even know. I had zero clue at all that the Super Bowl was happening until I saw Kenneth's message today. I don't know what that says about me, if anything.
It means you're on the sports sphere,
Sports
and that's
ball,
okay.
let's go.
I've only cared about sports like in the last year. And by care, I mean I usually just watch soccer.
But like what's? Oh, just I was going to ask.
Sorry,
just soccer.
Football for all you European.
Yeah,
and everyone else.
I was
It's not American.
Nike's like clothing and shoes space page, and they list everything as football cleats. And I'm like, okay, well, it might have actually been football cleats.
Well, it makes maybe
Like American
I don't know
football.
the difference. I never played football, American football. I played a lot of soccer in my life.
I did see joggers that were called soccer sweats, so that's probably what it was. I don't know.
It sounds like your fault, I guess.
That's my ethos again on being not a good sports person. So if I give you advice about sports, don't listen to me unless it involves an athletics check, in which case
Or an anime
listen.
about sports, maybe. Do you watch any anime sports?
One of my favorites used to be Prince of Tennis.
Oh, okay.
You know that one?
Never heard of it.
It was on Toonami back in the day, and it actually got me to play tennis.
Wow.
Like as a middle schooler, like legitimately went to my mom and said, "I want to play."
Influencing you to do athletic stuff.
I've been watching it my entire life. Also, the cats are munching on some food over there. So if you hear
Probably gone in a second. So
little cat ASMR off to the, my God,
quite the bowl.
Quite the bowl. No, they just like to make sure that they get everything that they can. So
What's up, guys?
what's up, guys?
Yeah,
how you doing? What's your week done? What'd you do?
Nothing really.
Nothing at all?
It was the snow week. Was last
snowed
week.
2 days.
Yeah. Well, just because I just didn't. I decided because it snowed and because my girlfriend had her work canceled. I was just gonna, we're just gonna do nothing this whole weekend. So that whole weekend was a blur for me
That's what I've been doing.
for the last couple weeks.
Kind of. A little bit.
But this last week, I just went to class, did some work. We couldn't play D&D yesterday, sadly, because the internet died the second we were supposed to start. Very frustrating.
I blame the football.
It could be the football. I blame the cold, actually. Because it was really cold that weekend when it first went down, and then it was cold again yesterday. I don't know if that has any correlation, but that's where I'm going with
I mean, where internet is concerned, I feel like being colder in terms of computer and chips is better.
Well, the other option I was thinking is, because this happened somewhere else in the world, but because it was peak hours, a lot of people were probably on it because everyone was home, everything was canceled.
I guess.
Maybe they were all on it, but I feel like people are always on the internet here. I don't know.
We tried to have our D&D, and everybody got here, and the second we all sat down and got everything set up, like this table is in this position, but these mics are like way up with different mics pointing down. Lights are all in different spaces.
Where we do that because we have a player online. So
yes.
That's why we couldn't really play. Even though the internet went out, normally we'd be like, we'll figure it out. We'll hotspot to connect to
And I did
music.
my hotspot later that night, and it worked for Discord.
Weird. Yeah, our hotspots weren't working for Discord for some reason. Mine crashed at some point. His wouldn't connect. Normally, if we were all in person, we could maybe play music or something, but we want to make sure we play with our online friend as well. So unfortunately, the internet gods were not in our favor.
But nah, screw that. We started a new game. There's new content on the D&D. It's like an old update, and you like in Minecraft, you can't play this world because it's 1.6 and 1.8 came out. We got Monsters of the Multiverse.
You gotta make sure you're not updating your Minecraft.
You got to change every monster that's in your game ever for this.
Well,
new world.
I hate to break it to you, new excited DM to jumping into D&D. If you have the other books, there's not many changes here.
It's really silly. It's really silly. It's like literally some HP tweaks lower most of the time, and AC tweaks lower.
There's no CR changes. Everything's still in the same.
I was trying to keep an eye out for that.
Or same CR field, as far as I can understand. So those of you who are not in the sphere, have not listened to multiple of our last episodes where we talked about Monster Multiverse, this is a big release for this year that dropped in January. January 25th, I want to say. But you could only get it if you bought it in a pack. And so we got part of the pack to be able to see this book for you guys because it's killing me that I wanted to see the changes. I wanted to see what happened.
Did it need
And it's not
like, were you before all that? You know what hasn't changed? He's Ryan.
He's right.
This is Dungeon Crawl. Today we're talking about Monster of the Multiverse, book that's come out in paper form, but also will be out on D&D Beyond.
It doesn't come out until May for you guys for solo. You just want to buy the stuff on D&D Beyond or buy the physical edition, not in the bundle. So hopefully it will either save you some money listening to this review, or we'll tell you, I got to kid this book.
I don't. Were you wanting this to? Stop that. What did you want this to be?
I wanted this to be the indication of what's to come. I was excited when this was originally announced because it sounded like they were going to take everything they've learned in the last, I don't know, however long, like 5 years since 5e released. Because we'd also heard about 5.5e, like this new edition that was coming out in 2024, around the same time as this book announcement. So I was thinking we're going to see, they would take everything, kind of start changing some abilities, changing some, I don't know, just some tweaks here to hopefully get us ready and see what their mindset is for the next edition of D&D.
There were some things. I very much wanted the same. And as you're mentioning it now, I'm like, well, maybe they were just kind of throwing a bunch of creatures into like a codex and just giving people a glossary that's really big because they couldn't tack it onto a specific book.
It's called Monsters of the Multiverse, right? There's a lot of stuff in here.
I particularly targeted, and we went through and said, hey, let's just look at monsters in the glossary that are our favorite, go there and try to see the differences. So that's what you're going to experience today, and then kind of our thoughts on it. I tried to go for things that I was expecting to see that spell attack change on for a lot of things, or stuff that I was just really excited about.
For that.
No, there really wasn't.
I have a good example of, if you're uninitiated, don't know what we're talking about. The first, I might be the first monster in the book. I'm actually not positive, but Alhoon was the first one I looked at. Okay, which is this Lich Arcane, or it's not the Lich, is it? Yes, no, it's the magic Mind Flayer one.
Yes.
Which I think is really cool, fascinating one. I'm just going to run the very quick things, and then we're going to get to what Braxton's talking about here. So first of all, the HP has changed. I think this is a good example of what's to come. The HP is buffed up a little bit from 120 to 150. It only has 1 damage immunity now, which is just poison. Before it was immunity to a lot of stuff that was non-magical. Then we got, it now has a multi-attack feature, which it didn't have before. It can use 2 of its attacks. It does a little bit extra damage with 1 of its attacks. It has a new attack called Arcane Bolt. Mind Blast does the exact same thing. And the spell list is very condensed, a lot different than the one that's in Volo's guide. But the big change here is the reaction that it now has. It's called Negate Spell. It gets 3 of these a day. Oh. And it is basically it is more or less a counter spell as an ability. So you could not counterspell this counterspell because it's not a spell.
You know what's... I don't like that at all.
I don't either.
Specifically because they have spell attack abilities that cannot be countered by counterspell.
Yes.
But they have an ability that is counterspell that can't be countered by a spell counterspell. So it's like a double fuck
like
you.
It's 3 a day, so I guess that, you can't just keep up using the other spells.
But because it's a separated ability out of a spell slot, a DM is going to surefire use this.
Yes.
What's the limitation on level?
It did have counterspell before.
Yeah.
But it was obviously just in its regular spell slot list.
What's its level? How high of a spell can it be countered?
It says if the spell is 3rd level or lower, the spell fails. But any spell slots or charges are not wasted. So I guess that's nice. It's interesting that I find here, I noticed this on another one that I'll get into later, another negate spell, because this doesn't include it. Do you know what counter spell says in the, like if it's above level 3 and you're trying to counter a disintegrate spell?
Is it a roll?
The DC, it's 10 plus whatever spell level. So disintegrates, I want to say 7 or something. No, 6 level. So it'd be 16 DC. You roll, and if you get 16, you do successfully counterspell the counterspell. This one says nothing along those lines. So I assume that means it'll just counter, period. There is another one later that adds an addendum that does have the DC part of it as well. So I'm not entirely sure what they're going with, because now they have the exact same ability, and it's worded different ways for a different creature.
Oh my word, Sumi. You can go get this boy. So the reason that this really bothers me is, and I can't truncate it an easier way because I know the garble of words that I mentioned earlier was ridiculous. But there's a controversial opinion around not being able to counter spells anymore because monsters typically don't have, by the new rules that they said were going to come into this book, they won't have Fireball. They'll have Fire Blast as an attack, and it'll be basically the same thing, but it's a spell attack, not a spell, which cannot be countered by counterspell. So these guys now also get a spell ability, or whatever they're going to call it, that guarantees a counter. And then this is fine, but like, can we get a class that has like the ability to counter spells?
Probably not.
I think Ildrigger had it.
Yeah, I believe
one of the three.
Something similar to a counterspell. Yeah.
Wow, I didn't catch that, so I'm glad that you did.
I'm gonna see if I can't remember if I took it with me or not. I'm gonna double check my other ones I grabbed and see if there is. No, I didn't grab the other one. I had negate spell because I assumed it was the same ability, but it's not.
No.
Which is very strange.
For me, I was gravitating towards first the NPC style monsters. For some reason, I was really interested to see how they reworked them because I feel it would be really telling of where they were going to go. And the first one that shows up that I looked at would be Bard. If you're taking a look at everything here, Bard has these songs that can rest people. They're more of a healer in the player's handbook or whatever the source material that they're in before, but in this they have a cacophony that does an AoE sort of damage. They have spell casting rather than like a taunt. They don't rely as much on the short sword and short bow as they did previously. They're more of a spellcaster and damage dealer in this case. There's a little nice table that gives you some instruments that they could have if you need to roll it on the fly. There's really no changes in terms of their abilities per se, which I was really trying to keep an eye out for. Like Ryan said, same challenge rating. I don't know. Their spell list, they have a lot more, I think. Interesting. In the previous edition. So they had like Friends, Mage Hand, Vishmockery. Gotcha. They had first, second, and cantrips. And now they don't have any of that.
Yeah, so the Alchemy is the same way, and I'm wondering if they're doing this to make it easier to just pick up and run. Because otherwise, I got to look up what Confusion does. I don't know what Confusion does. Now they have less spells. Now
it's just spell casting at will, Dance Dance, Mage Hand, Prestidigitation, once per day, Charm, Invisibility, Sleep. So it's definitely easier to run. And the reason I love these is when I was DMing for the short amount of time I did is I wanted to have stat blocks for the people that were around. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I found these particularly useful. But again, you might be saying, well, that's a really small change. It's not a lot. It's going from a healer to a damage dealer. But I'm not seeing like this big shift.
Well, let me talk about a change I do like before we go into the other weirdness in this book.
I didn't find anything I did really dislike or hate or
right. Yeah, it's not that. It's just more things I'm like, okay. Why do we need this book? But this, I really like the new way that they have laid out stat blocks.
I thought you didn't like it before.
No, I actually really like this now. I think
it was Pathfinder you didn't like.
Pathfinder don't like. It can be a little
second
confusing.
edition. Sorry.
But these I like because I always found it confusing whenever in big stat blocks for like really big CR monsters would have in their features list, it would have bonus action stuff. It would have other reaction stuff that you could only notice. I gotta grab that cat. What? I'm just gonna take this plastic with me too, so you don't get tempted.
You're a silly boy.
My cat's the same way.
He's a silly boy.
Plastic, they want to go touch
well, they're apparently deficient in something that plastic has, and they like to nibble on it.
Yeah. Okay. So what I was saying was, is that for some of these higher CR monsters, and I have an example later, would have really crazy bonus action, reaction stuff in their feature stuff right underneath their, like where the resistances would be. And that could be easily forgotten when you're running a big encounter with lots of other moving parts. But now they have that all broken into specific areas that say reactions. All your reactions are going to be found here. All your bonus actions are going to be found in here, just like they have with the actions already. So it makes it so much easier just to get a quick reminder of what your creature can do.
It does read a good bit better. Some of it hasn't been touched on. I want to get to that in a second. But for the monster that you're talking about, was it just a syntax and organizational change? Were there any alterations to it itself?
Yes, there were. Let me see if I can find the exact example.
What's the thing you have that has, you can do this one first, but like has the most changes to it that you found?
Ooh, that's a good question. Honestly, I think most that I found would only have like 1 or 2 changes. Yeah. I think I didn't find any more that had more than that.
Yeah. pretty much the same with me. I actually found more that had nothing. Like for me, the choker,
yes,
absolutely zero changes.
I also looked at the choker.
Yeah, they have literally no changes. Like their lore reads differently, which that's fun. Well, flavor text, cool. But outside of that, like nothing. So as I was reading this, I started thinking this is really just a gathering of what was out there. Monsters of the Multiverse.
It doesn't take everything though. What we talked about in our leaks.
Where are my tieflings?
No tieflings, no orc stat blocks for the like monsters.
Yeah.
Which I do also want to mention. That's why I was confused at when I was some of the Mind Flayer Lich. They didn't include the Mind Flayer Lich in this book, which made me sad. But the alphabetical organization, I do not enjoy. For the races and for the, I guess races makes a little more sense.
Yeah.
But the problem with the races as well is the different elves are all broken up into their own. It's like Shatterkai's and the S's while the elf is up there. Before they were all kind of connected.
Would you prefer like fake creatures with these types of creatures? How would you want it organized?
I think I'd want it where it's like with Aasimar, I think it's a good example.
I have not read that stat block like in depth before.
Yeah. So it's easier to read now.
It's like a fucking subclass.
Yes, it is. Because they combine the subclasses into one race now. If that makes sense.
I read it. So,
right.
But I mean, like literally, it's like a second subclass. Right. And they changed it a lot.
Yes, they did.
And by that, I mean, they brought things that said damage based off level to damage based off proficiency bonus. Yes. And it's almost synonymous, like they flopped.
But I think it's a good example because they have like, I don't know what they're called, but like the Fallen Aasimar is all connected into the Aasimar block, while the other elf sub-races, I guess you could call them, are in complete separate pages.
Now, I think Aasimar hasn't been personified as much.
Right, yeah, it definitely makes more sense.
And I think people are wanting to separate elves because they are different cultures.
But I'll connect this into the monsters as well, is because this has made it tough for me to find stuff, because whenever I was doing my comparisons, maybe it was easier in D&D Beyond, which I probably should have just done that.
I just Googled.
Yeah, I probably should have done that. But I was getting the exact stat block from like just copying it out of my PDF book. And the problem with that is all the devils would be connected in the monsters manual. So they just have devils, and then all the devils would be underneath that, didn't move to another monster. And here they're literally just A, B, C, D, E, F, G, whatever, in alphabetical order. Okay. And it was a little off. It felt
organized them by CR. No,
that could be kind of fun.
Well, then you wouldn't know, like, I see that there's the elf right here, but where's his subordinates and whatnot that would be fighting right under him? Well, they're on a completely different page. So that can be a little wonky. But that's, the pen and paper organization can be kind of tough to go through. Since we talked about Aasimar just real quick, there's those alterations that they gave, and it wasn't just everything that said level damage turned to proficiency bonus based damage. Like they kept some things as level. Like it wasn't all just a flop to one thing, which I thought was like really, really odd. I don't need to get too in depth into that, other than the fact of the one that used to hurt itself by going on fire no longer hurts itself. Yeah,
and also it only affects enemies now. Yes. The guy that pulls out its wings and scares everybody.
Which is quality of life, I guess.
Yes, because it happened in our game and everyone else could not do anything. They were like terrified, which is kind of fun. They're terrified of me, but it doesn't help anything.
And then the other thing is a lot of races got the ability to deal some extra proficiency bonus damage when they hit, like the goblins did.
Because let's talk about the races real fast, because I found a couple of things there. First, I do want to say the interesting thing I found about races, and I guess monsters with the lore in this book, is it's either truncated by a lot, cut out a bunch of the lore, or they've added stuff that wasn't in the other books. Still made it smaller, so you have like each race is only a page, each monster is only a page too. But I found it was very inconsistent with what lore they brought over, what they decided to add. But for me, the one I was most excited to look at, and by excited I mean sad, because I already know what's going to happen, is the kobold.
Oh yeah.
The kobold, I love the idea of the kobold. We knew in the leaks that the kobold got hit pretty hard. At least in the errata, they were not enjoying the kobold area either. So this is what they changed with the kobold, all right? So they added an ability called Draconic Cry, which is basically the exact same thing as the grovel, cower, and beg feature that it had before, just changed a little bit. The difference is instead of being creatures that can see you, now it's creatures that only can hear you. So I guess if something's blind, it is not affected by it. And it does the proficiency bonus that you talked about before. Then they have basically like sub races in here. You get to choose one of these legacy options for your kobold, which gives you either proficiency in some skills, or you have advantage to avoid or end the frightened condition upon yourself, or you learn like some draconic type spells.
Yeah.
But they took out the pack tactics feature, and they took out sunlight sensitivity, which we talked about in our leaks episode, which is a very strange thing to me, because then they included the sunlight sensitivity for the monster version of the races that would have had it before.
Why did they... Kobolds, they just live in caves a lot?
Yeah,
so
they live in caves.
I guess. Well, yeah, your dragon that sits in the cave all the time. Yeah, that's just. I guess they haven't really been.
I think Shatterkai or Drow used to be that as well.
Yeah, they took out. Again, I think the same reason they took out the AOE damage, harming you and your friends. It's just play this thing. Don't worry about the sunlight damage. You can throw it in if you want. And
I guess it would probably turn people off from playing the class. Like, why do I want to play a race that cannot be in the sunlight?
And the flavoring they had before of, very much Pathfinder kobolds, they're either very crafty or, they'll beg and plead and kind of be a little tricksy to get out of situations. In this, they took it out, which sucks for flavor, but you still have the option to do that. At least you can flavor it that way, just like Ryan and I flavor a lot of our spells, depending on what our players do. So it's not gone. It's in your heart still if you want it, and you can play kobolds however you'd like. But they removed... like not a ton of stuff from everything. I looked at Changeling and they're exactly the same. And Changeling was something
most races were untouched.
Yeah, I was fully expecting.
The orc got hit a little bit.
Yeah.
Which again, I guess going off the erratos makes sense. They're going to try to change it a little bit. They added a half orc trait because the half orc's not in this book, which I found. They added the relentless endurance thing. So if you get killed, you can maybe go back to 1 HP.
That was a really fucking cool. I love that one.
And then they added adrenaline rush, which means you can take the dash action as a bonus action, which is, like a little bit of a rogue going on there. And you can do that to your proficiency bonus stuff. So they took out aggressive and they took out menacing traits from the previous orc stat block. Or
like we talked about before, because they don't want to code orcs as menacing,
tough,
aggressive, and tough. Like they can be many different ways. And the image that they have for the orc as well is definitely different from any art that they've had. It's a very jolly looking person. I think it might even be a bard. I'm not too sure.
Yeah, I've not seen that art before.
No. The goblin is really cool. If you've seen what they can do in the art, nothing much to say about that, but it has really nice abilities.
I did notice, and you might remember where this is from. I tried to look around for it. I cannot find the sea elf ever being a race before.
No.
I didn't think so either. I checked on I broke out D&D Beyond, did some searching. I could not find the sea elf. So I think
in there at all?
I think it's a new race.
And you theoretically have the same stuff that I do.
Yeah, so I believe you can double check for me, but I could not find the sea elf anywhere. So I thought it was a whole new race that they added into this book, which I'm surprised I did not notice this ahead of time.
No, it's there.
Oh, what's it in?
Oh shit! What is this book? It's just under elf right now. Hold on.
It's just under elf. Because I checked the player's handbook elf. I couldn't find it there, unless I missed it.
I'll keep looking, but this is very strange to me.
Something's off.
Because it's in there. Elf traits, subrace, sea elf. It doesn't tell me exactly where it's from.
Let me check.
Sahuagin, danger from the depths. I'm seeing friends of the sea, child of the sea.
It could be from Saltmarsh. I don't think there were any races in there.
Sea elf, D&D 5e.
Someone in the comments probably yelling at us right now.
No, I mean they're doing it.
Here it is. Here's it from.
D&D 5th edition wiki dot. Please, good sirs, give me this.
Yeah, it's not in the player's handbook. They just got wood elf, drow, and high elf.
Eladrin, control F, C. CDs and nuts. Nice. Tome of Foes, Mordenkainen.
It's in Mordenkainen?
It's in Mordenkainen.
Let me check this out here. How did I miss it?
I don't know. Maybe you don't have it shared or something.
I got it right here.
Oh, you were going through all your PDFs. Boy.
Yeah.
Oh, my word. That's so much there.
Wait.
Jeeba-leeba.
Oh, I forgot. They have, there's a section at the end. This is WotC not having consistency with where they put things.
Yeah.
It's not its own section, more in kinds. It's at the end of the stuff that's talking about the elf war, the elves and stuff. the end of that chapter is where they have the elf sub races. Yeah, there it is.
Well, now you know where to look if you have that book.
Yeah, that's what the Shatter Kai is as well.
They always put races at the top, just like in this. Really strange. I don't know. Hey, we found it though, so there you go. Yeah. And the person who was yelling at us at the podcast or the YouTube video, we got you. We heard your cries. We heard your pleas.
That's right. That's where the Duragar and stuff are. Okay, makes so much sense.
Like I'm gonna rattle off the things that I'll fucking do it. That's the second F-bomb of drop. We're no longer PG-13, or are we? I think it's 2. It might be 2. So the Bard was one of them. The Choker, of course, you already did.
Monsters.
Did you look at the Death Kiss?
I didn't. Tell me about it.
Oh, okay. So,
I thought about it, looking at the beholders, and then I got upset that that was an alphabetical order, and I couldn't find the beholder I wanted, and so I just gave up.
AC from 16 to 15.
Okay.
HP from like 161 to 142.
So it made it weaker a little bit.
Then that is it.
That's it.
That's it. Some flavor stuff on the left, but that is all I did. They just made it.
And they'll survive one less hit, I guess.
Yeah, and it's easier to hit now too, so they just made it easier. It's got the same typical attack. The damage is exactly the same. Blood Drain does the exact same amount of damage, same DC. I mean, I've not seen Death Kiss. Is it in the player's handbook?
Yes. It's either in the player's handbook or it's in Volo's guide.
So I gotta ask, like, how did they pick what they put in here?
No idea.
No, not a clue.
Seemed no rhyme or reason to it.
I mean, it does have a little bit of different thing. Let's beholder, true beholder. If a nightmare about losing blood is colored separate as a beholder dream. Yeah, see, it's just slightly different, which disappointed me. But Death Kisses are cool. They're not like super crazy strong, even though they're challenge rating 10. And then I just had to look at Warlock of the Great Old One.
Yeah,
because this is technically fitting in that bracket of NPC monsters that I feel exemplify a lot of what they're doing. Okay, what are they going to do with Eldritch Blast? Is it going to be a cantrip or is it going to be a spell? What are they going to bring?
Good question.
They have damaging spells.
So actual spells?
Yes. So I don't even know what they're saying. Maybe it's different because this is a Warlock of the Great Old One. This is theoretically like, hey, player characters, this like is you, but an NPC. It's literally a Warlock of the Great Old One, not a Warlock that Ryan homebrewed or a Warlock that's just sitting out. Like this is theoretically a Warlock that has taken the class abilities of the Great Old One. And the changes that were brought about, if I can't get to my images here, there it is. So it had originally cantrips, like a shitload of Eldritch Blasts in there and whatnot. It no longer has Eldritch Blast.
But that's like the Warlock staple.
Maybe they're saying no, it's not. But they removed a lot of spells, but they kept damaging ones. And the only AoE ability is similar to Ever's Black Tentacles, I believe. It's a AoE, I think, Fear, is it? Psychic damage and Frighten. So it's an AoE Fear Tentacle slap thing that does 2d8.
It does sound like
on a 5 wisdom save. It's very similar. They no longer rely much on using their daggers, but they do have a multi-attack now. Makes them a little bit more beefy.
Okay.
They essentially just removed the massive spell list that you were looking at before, chunked them all into a spellcasting tab. Damaging spell I mentioned before, I believe.
I like what creatures have a big spell list for me to pick from.
I mean, you've got a few. There's Detect Magic, Guidance, Levitate, Mage Armor, Mage Hand, Minor Illusion, Prestidigitation, a bunch of stuff. Secret Dead's in there.
Let me ask you,
Void.
As you DM'd a little bit in your time, when you're DMing and you're picking a creature, I guess this is maybe a little different, but even like obviously like liches and villains have these cantrips like Prestidigitation and Thaumaturgy, and like, when would I ever have my...
I mean, I used an illusionist once and like Prestidigitation to justify like a noise that they heard somehow. I don't know. Maybe freaking out a low level party. This is your big bad evil guy, or at least halfway through.
And this might ruffle some feathers. Maybe we can have an episode on this. But you don't have to. I mean, just look at Curse of Strahd. A lot of the stuff that Strahd can do is not a spell. It's not an ability. It's just you're in his domain. He can do these things. You don't have to have it written down on the spell list for the creature to do just something small and fun. To have some fun little noise. Yeah. I don't know. I always thought they were useless.
They've got Whispering Aura, which is a saving throw 15, 10 or 3d6 damage. Yay. It's a thing. It's got cool ability names. It functions almost exactly like a warlock that you could make would do. But previously it had a lot more spells. It had Eldritch Blast. But inarguably, which one? The format's a bit different.
Right.
But which one seems easier to read?
That one.
Probably that one.
Yeah, the one from Multiverse.
Yeah. So art's cool too, but I think that's just from a Magic card. It could be incorrect.
I would not be surprised.
There's a few in there from the vampire stuff that came out recently.
Oh, nice. So the ones I looked at.
Yeah, that's all I looked at because I kept not seeing any changes.
Yeah, so I tried to pick out a few here that had a few changes. Obviously there's some that we probably aren't going to talk about that had changes that we might have missed or whatever. So please, in the comments below, tell us why your favorite monster got ruined or helped. So I looked at the Alep, or the Alep, I don't know how you pronounce that thing. I always thought it was really cool. It's like this big floating beast. You guys have fought it once before. The only thing that got added to it is, and I saw it's added in a few places, is called the Unusual Nature feature. And it basically just means they don't require air, food, drink, or sleep. Sure. Did not have that before. And then it also just got a little bit stronger. So the Howling Babble that it had, I got it mixed up. Yeah, it does the same damage. The only thing it does a little more is the Whispers of Compulsion. Before it's called Whispers of Madness. So again, we're getting away from the madness and insanity type stuff. And that does more damage from average 7 damage, now average 12 damage. Just adds an extra D8.
You know what I'm realizing?
What's that?
A lot of the controversy is coming about because this is a physical thing. Like tabletop is still very much tactile. Yeah. We want to, in a lot of cases, be able to experience that sitting at a table, writing stuff down, rolling physical dice, having the book. They're collector's items. There's things like video games where, we don't need the cartridges anymore. I'm fine not collecting them. Some people definitely still do, but it's starting to get removed from hobbies and things that people are doing, and everything's going digital. Video games have, think about Overwatch. They can buff and change characters on a whim.
Yeah.
There's no physical copy of that game.
Well, thinking like MTG now.
Yeah, exactly.
That MTG, I don't know if you keep up with it, MTG Arena just released a new set a little bit ago. I can't remember what it's called, but it's the first one that was a digital only set.
And now they can change it and alter it if they want to.
Yeah, and so it's almost like they have like a little Hearthstone-y going on, because they have the randomness, like stuff they can literally only do on an online format. They can change it and tweak that. So that's what Historic was supposed to be. They can just tweak it whenever. And some people were excited about it. Some people were like, oh, this is stupid, whatever. But I think being a physical, stuck in the physical
This
age
is just a changelog.
Tough. Yeah, it is a changelog. It's adding and tweaking and making it more interesting or making it different. Just seeing how it affects the game. And then they'll have a version 3 later, which is probably the 5.5 release.
And it's only controversial or taboo because this is a physical thing that sits in people's libraries
and
that they spent money on.
$60. Actually, they're really charging $150 for it right now.
Can you imagine if we had to, sometimes they do, it's called making a sequel of the game, but can you imagine we had to pay for like patches and shit? They do often.
They did back in the day. Imagine they had to send you like a new CD to plug in.
Well, for Pokemon games, there was a berry glitch that if you planted a berry on the day before the year changed, it would be locked for another entire year because of how the calendar works. And you could send your cartridge to Game Freak, and they would personally plug it in and update it for you.
Wow.
That's how they had to do this in the past. And D&D, because it's maintaining, I don't want to use like the word tradition specifically, but maintaining the pen and paper format, because people really enjoy that and having these books. They love it.
Kenneth's one of them. He loves having the physical copy.
So because of that being tied to it, I think we're always going to have controversy around things being changed because it's saying this is what this is, and you're paying money for it.
Yeah, because there aren't any changes in here that I'm like up in arms about.
No.
The other one here, I looked at some of the big creatures like Baphomet, the big scary demon guy.
Yeah.
His health actually went up, so it made him a little tougher to 319 instead of 275. He now has in his multi-attack feature, he can use his Frightful Presence, which I love because a lot of these big creatures have a Frightful Presence feature, which basically they can scare everyone around them. But that's when they use that, that's the only attack they can do that turn. And so it feels like you just wasted a whole turn just to scare everybody.
Yeah.
Especially if everyone saves. So now you can multi-attack and then use that feature. Before they had a thing that would allow him to charge, because he's a big like bull guy.
Yeah.
So you just like charge at somebody. And now instead of that, he has it's been moved into the gore attack. So if you move 10 feet straight at somebody and then do the gore attack. Then you do extra damage and you actually do the charge thing instead of charge was just a feature that he could
use movement more.
Yeah, so he just charge at somebody and
that's
now
a lot
it's
of fun.
An attack. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
I think that was the only change for him. So just small little additions.
If I get it costs as much as it does because it's a whole ass book with ink and pen and paper, the bundling shit out the side. But
that's the example I was talking about that has the bonus actions and it's a whole separate area when it used to just be up here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's much nicer.
Very appreciated.
It's actually echoing how it works on D&D Beyond. I don't know if you've used it too much.
I don't think I have.
So for D&D Beyond, you've got your actions tab. And if you just continue to scroll down, it goes from the first things you like to do, your big action. And then it'll go to anything like a feat or feature that is an action.
Yeah.
It'll scroll down. It'll show you reactions and bonus actions. Then anything else that's like a tiny tidbit of an extra that you could use like once per day or something. Like it follows that. That's exactly. Handy. So it's really nice. I think they're kind of taking inspiration from that. And I think like we've kind of run through, unless there was another monster you wanted to bring up.
So there's a couple I want to hit real fast.
Yeah, go ahead, because I have
the bar guest, which is like the goblin mount they can have. It's basically what it is. It does more than that. But the bar guest added less health, and subtracted health. But it added a new feature called soul feeding, which is kind of cool, that it can feed on a corpse that was killed nearby. Because this was always in their lore, but it wasn't an actual ability they could do. So now they can do some soul feeding. And then the Demogorgon, because I love looking at the big guys, see what's changes. What's the big guys? He was made stronger as well, so he has more HP. His gaze that he looks around at everybody and freaks I went out with got weirdly. So before it was like a 1 through 3 ability, which I always found weird. And because I guess you roll a d4, and if it hits 4, you just do it again. Yeah. But now it's a d6. And so instead of 1, 2, and 3, the first ability is 1 and 2. Then it's 3 and 4, then 5 and 6. And they changed the order of them slightly and changed the name of them, which I found strange. Everything else is the same. And he added a legendary action where he can cast a spell, which is cool.
These are the types of changes that I'm like, what were these writers tasked with?
I don't know.
What did they look at? Did they read through every single monster and say, hey, I want to look at this and change it or put it in here?
Let me see.
Every time we have a release of these episodes, I just want like a dev diaries, which Ryan says they do occasionally, but they never go like super in depth.
I mean, who to direct your tweets to, everybody? It says lead designer Jeremy Crawford. That's it. And it has the original design, Jeremy Crawford, and a bunch of other people. Now, here we go, the revision designers. Okay, I guess we should have looked these up ahead of time. Yeah. Sydney Adams, Judy Bauer, Jeremy Crawford's in there. Mackenzie DeArmas, Dan Dillon, Ari Levitch, I think I recognized that name before. Ben Patrizer, and Tamor Remen. I feel like we should make content them towards like, hey, so you worked on this. Tell me what was going through your mind. It would be kind of interesting.
I wish. Maybe if we get big enough one day, we can reach out to him.
But there was, I forgot about this one. This is the only NPC and the only monster that I got upset about. Then I can put my anger to the side. We can move on. But this is the Drow Arachnomancer. I've used this creature against my players before. I love it. It's fun. It's like a spider wizard lady. She's very strong. The only changes that they had here, according to my notes, are the spell casting list.
And you're upset about that?
Yes, because they made it way smaller. It's an arachnomancer. It should have very strong, like the spells it has now. Let me tell you, if you think a top-of-the-line spellcaster would have these, ready? Dancing Lights, Mage Hand, sure. All Drows have those, I'm pretty sure. At least Dancing Lights. Then we got 1 a day for all of these. Darkness, Dispel Magic, Etherealness, Fairy Fire, Fly, Insect Plague, and Invisibility.
Did they get like abilities? Spell
nope,
attacks?
Nothing else changed.
They didn't get a spell attack?
Nope.
What do they deal damage with?
They attack. They have a bite only in their spider form. And they can use their web. They have a poisonous touch, which is only in their human form. This poisonous touch, 35 damage.
What's the CR?
It's 13. It was 13 before. But let me tell you. So these are the spells that had before.
I'm amazed they didn't lower it.
Right? These are the spells. I feel like it should be lower.
Yeah.
But it doesn't because the new attack that it does have with the touch, that's 35 damage.
Okay.
So the ones it had before were Chill Touch, Eldritch Blast, Mage Hand, Poison Spray. Just quick little cantrips. Then we got, these are 1st to 5th level, and she's got 3 5th level slots, okay? Animals, only can do spiders with that one.
Oh, it's a Warlock.
Yeah. Crown of Madness, Dimension Door, Dispel Magic, Fear, Fly, Giant Insect, Hold Monster, Insect Plague, Invisibility, Vampiric Touch, Web, and Witch Bolt. Then we got these you can only cast once a day. Dominate Monster, Etherealness, and Eye Bite. And her DC is 16.
So I like that better, but yes, I do see what they did. They went, okay, they have, this is kind of funny because this is what Warlocks do. Only 3 spell slots, and all of these spells, the DM is going to be like, well, what the fuck? Which one do I use? What do I go with? I'm confused.
Sure, yeah.
So let's slim it down and give them no spells that
it's
can
an
attack.
Arachnomancer.
It's an Arachno utility spellmancer now. That is really annoying. I don't like that.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a powerful drow. Spider caster.
Fuck, we would have almost died to our big bad evil guy after that fight if that was the one that we fought. Or was it the one that disintegrated me?
This was not the one that disintegrated.
It was one of the Ancient Brothers?
Disintegrate. Yes.
Oh.
Yes. Actually, I think it was a third-party drow.
Oh,
no,
shit.
It was in Mordenkainen's. Yeah, so never mind. It was. I'm pretty sure it was in Mordenkainen's.
So I'll pose something to you.
Yeah, pose it.
Would any of this be an issue if D&D was not a written in stone format? We'd have a whole bunch of different issues seen in the video game industry. But they could change stuff easily and without printing things while costing money. That would segment things. What is an addition?
I mean, if you think about it, the small patches and stuff are in theory what UA should be used for. So they toss those out there, let people play test them. They're like, yo, WotC, this change the Arachnomancer makes them not as fun to play or play against. And they're like, oh, sorry, okay, we'll change them.
How do you play test this? That is too much content to play test.
Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I mean, that's so, for you Call of Duty fans out there, that's the trouble that they're running into right now with their flagship Warzone product, is that the QA department was on strike for a long time because they just fired a bunch of people when they promised they would keep them. And so the QA department was like, hey, we're going on strike then. And they were on strike for a while. And the game, like, they were putting out new content and it was just people weren't enjoying it because it wasn't getting tested. So I imagine, I don't know what the QA team is like.
If they exist.
If they exist. Let me see if it's if it's in the credits here.
Interesting. I keep thinking about this a lot because I would love to have more malleable change. I think it would bring quicker change about, and that's not necessarily a good thing always, because having a volatile game would make like 5th edition have several like communities that break out into it and people that jump in and say, well, hey, I like using the Warlock before they, made this weird buff to it. It's like, well, sorry, this is the most up-to-date way. We can't change it. So, that's an example of an issue that would come about. But is QA chilling in there?
I can't even find a QA anyway. I looked it up online. I can't find a whole anything. So I don't know. They might not even have a QA team. Might just be their in-house people that just play test the game. Don't know.
The worry with that like trial, it's like a big thesis of what are my monsters doing against my players? Like they've got that one new ability. How many times could they do that? Just infinitely?
Yeah, it's just I touch you attack.
How's that different from a slam that does 35 damage though? No. Exactly. So it's not
it's poison.
Fun. But it's differently flavored, I guess. Like the description that you give to your game lets your players feel a different environment. But it's like, hey, didn't we just get like stepped on by a giant and this does like the same thing?
Yeah, I'm curious if they're trying to separate it from some of the other drow that also cast lots of spells. They're trying to make a separate branch, but then I feel like you just got to change the name.
Yeah, I don't know. So for this, and like this is a non-standard review for us, we didn't read everything because that kind of reading is really hard on the brain, and we're not the dig into the mechanics deep kind of podcast. I'm sure there are a lot of people making content on it right now, but overall it's like, I'm going to assume you're listening to this at a time, and probably not, that you can buy it separately. You can buy it on its own and it's just out there and not in a bundle. In that case, I would say, sure.
And it is cheaper on D&D Beyond.
If you're a DM.
Only on D&D Beyond, though.
Yeah. If you're a DM, it's never really a bad thing having more monster manuals.
True, and some of the changes in here, like I said, are not bad. I like the stat blocks better. There's some creatures that I looked in here that I feel like I'd rather run one from here, but then I look at others like I would never want to run this monster instead of one that I've already ran.
Yeah. So I don't really know the purpose of this other than what they've said is to serve as a sneak peek into the next thing of D&D. But if a lot of these monsters, as you're reading through maybe the glossary, or you can see it on D&D Beyond, if you see them and you like it, snag it. It's pretty easy to take a look at yourself. Players, I mean, no.
Yeah, the more I think, I really don't know who this is for because it's packaged with Tasha's and Xanathar's, right?
Yeah, which is heavy player stuff.
And this is heavy
DM stuff
I
with
guess
a little bit
besides
of players.
the races, but there's not much of that in here.
It's a damn good booster. It's not a good deal.
Why bundle it with that? I don't. I feel like you want to bundle. Oh, I guess you can't bundle with Volos. That was because you'd be giving them the same stuff they're already buying. I guess that's
some
why.
of it's changed.
They have nothing else to put it with.
Yeah.
But the problem is, if you just have this one, you're not getting all the extra lore that's in those books.
Yeah. Or lore that's been cut out.
That's where they get you.
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't hate it. It's just like indifference, I guess.
Yeah. It feels like I don't know why this exists.
You know, I do know why it exists. Our social media.
Why does that exist?
It exists so you can talk with us on occasion.
Nice.
We get on there every so often. If there's a notification, if you message us on Twitter at Dungeon Crawl Pod right now,
Do it.
I will actually just respond to you. I will say hello. I hope you have a good day. Here's an internet point. I will do it.
We'll send you a picture of our cats.
I'll send you a picture. It depends on who's on the phone at the time, but I will do this.
That's true.
We also have a Discord. If you feel like jumping in there, there's a link tree with a couple of things in there.
Yeah.
Discord, we run quite a few games. Zelda 5e game that I'm having a blast being a sneaky warlock, doing crazy warlock pact things, being told to kill NPCs that I quite like, and coming to terms with that. There's a bunch of other stuff, Pathfinder games that people are running around. Somebody is making a fucking Pokemon tabletop rule set right now. Justin's doing it, which is really crazy. Good stuff. It's in the link tree. Jump in there. All super friendly. We also have an email. I'm doing things a little bit of an order, but that's thedungeoncrawlpod@gmail.com. And finally, if you've ever supported us on Patreon, or if you're supporting us right now, scrolling across the screen, thank you very much. If you ever feel like doing it in the future, it is in the link tree, and we do very much appreciate you. Hello, sir.
I don't know why he's looking at me like that. I mean, I've just been knee deep in content, and
yeah, I've been actually.
Yeah, you're reading and delving deep, and I've been looking through the portals, you know. And it's interesting when you're reading this. I don't know if you noticed the first part of the monsters area. It said that this actually no, it's at the very first page of the book when you get to past the. Because you always have like some stupid quip like, wow, this is Mordenkainen, and yada. In that area, it mentions how this is a combination of this book. Eberron's in one of the books that's in there as well, and it got me. I don't know. I kind of did like my best Doctor Strange impersonation. Like sat down.
I've never watched that.
Well, I sat down like this. For you audio listeners, I'm putting my feet up onto the chair and like kind of like did like a meditation pose, because I was seeing the death kiss in my world. I was seeing the death kiss that was in this book. I was seeing the death kiss in Volo's guy. I was seeing all these different creations floating around, all from the different multiverses. Hey, Braxton's on the same page now. All the different multiverses flying around, rotating and moving. And I didn't know exactly what to do. But I figured out a solution to get my head on the same page, to get it out of this multiverse of madness. I decided to go to Apple Podcasts and rate us 5 stars.
It's the only way.
It's the only way to stop the multiverse from falling apart.
That's the thread.
Yeah, because they're all starting to converge. You're going to have a death kiss from Eberron and from over here, all doing different damages with different ACs, and we can't be having that. They got to stick to their own dimension.
You know what?
What's up, man?
People use homebrew monsters all the time. This is basically WotC homebrewing their own shit.
Yeah.
If you think about it.
Like I used a Shadow Beholder, which doesn't exist in our game, and that was fun.
It's never wrong. Different lore, throwing things in there. It's fine. Is it annoying because they're WotC? Yes. But hey, they made the game that we love. Did they?
It's true.
Kind of. Not really. They
one of the guys that made it's no longer with them. So.
That's true. There were some questionable things back then too. But anyways.
Well, I meant Yeah, I made 5th edition.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, 5th edition, not Gary.
I guess there's also questionable stuff in 5th edition.
There's questionable stuff in a lot of things. So
there's questionable stuff
everywhere. Yes, exactly.
Speaking of questionable stuff.
Well, not questionable stuff.
Oh.
What are you talking about?
I'm talking about our next episode's podcast.
Oh, shit. Oh, yeah.
We're going to be having a very special episode next week. Make sure you tune in. I'm not going to say anything else because I want you to be excited. It's going to be a little different speed for us, but I'm looking forward to having the conversation.
You know, it's not questionable.
He's bragging.
Fucking shit. He's Ryan. Well, thanks for being here.
Thanks for crawling with us.
Thanks for calling with us. See you guys next week at the same time on Monday at 7 a.m. You better.
Or, I mean, you don't have to listen at
7
No,
you got to listen at that time.
That's really early for some of you guys, I bet. No. 7 a.m. CST, which if you live in like the western side of the United States, that's really early.
I will be really impressed.
But if you live in Europe, then hey, that's like midday for you.
I'll be really impressed.
What time would that be in Japan? That's probably...
It depends, but usually it's like 13 hours, 13, 14 hours, depending on daylight savings.
Are stupid.
So it'd be like
why can't we always exist at the same time, you know? Screw the sun.
Time doesn't exist.
Screw the sun.